Sun in Sagittarius conjunct Neptune. Um, it's conjunct Neptune in the 12th house, and it's also conjunct Venus by a 9-degree orb. These are all considered a conjunction. This gives first of all, Venus conjunct is exact conjunct Neptune. Gives a love of religion and truth and knowledge. You know, you probably had some real strong religious upbringing and some influence in your life because of this. This is like in part of your ingrained, childhood. It's part of that. Your mom was real religious?
Yeah, Catholic.
That's what I thought. This is real powerful in this chart, and it's also conjunct the sun. Means your spirit has been, given, you might say, overload of this in your life. It's like it's part of your nature now. You also have Venus rising in the east. It's only 5 degrees above the ascendant. That gives beauty. It gives a balance of beauty. Harmony. Venus rising gives a proportion beauty. In other words, my nose on somebody else's face might not look good. You see what I mean? But it's based on proportion. Beauty is proportion. And you do have a beautiful face, just gorgeous. But there's something about, it's all about proportion. You have proportionate beauty. Beauty is based upon proportion, nothing else. It's not, your nose on her face wouldn't work, or her nose on yours wouldn't work, but it's the proportion that makes beauty. And that goes back to Da Vinci and to the early studies of proportion and divine rule, what's called divine measure. The golden mean, all that's in the mysteries, okay? And Venus rising gives that. 27 Sag. We both have Venus together. I was born with 28 Sag on my ascendant like you. Amazing similarity in that respect, your chart and mine. Except you've got Capricorn rising. If this time is right, because this changes every 4 minutes. So if you were born just 8 minutes earlier, you'd probably have Sagittarius rising. If that time, and the reason I say that is if the doctor didn't correctly put that birth time down, I know, for example, in my life, in my chart, because I've worked with my chart for so many years, my birth certificate said I was born at 9:30, but I know I was born at 9 a.m. I've done both charts and looked at the timing on my chart, so I know that. The reason I think it happens is because I don't think the doctors are worried about astrological timing.
Right.
They get back to their office and they're filling out a birth certificate and they say, what time? Oh, okay.
About,
You see what I'm getting?
10 minutes ago.
So you may have Sag rising instead of Capricorn, because Capricorn is a harder sign to have rising, okay? And if I read your chart and start getting into it, it may be accurate. It may be we'd read it that way. But you have, the moon is the highest planet in your chart, conjunct Pluto. Remember I told you that's the highest spiritual planet of all meaning? Pluto is planet of Christ consciousness. Remember I talked about that? You remember the spirit's not even touching the soul? Your moon and Pluto are exactly together. And it's also with Saturn. That tells me you've experienced some hardship about death in your life. Something's impacted your life on some level. I don't know what that is, but something has had an impact on your soul that involves death. And you can't, with Saturn, because Saturn's the Grim Reaper and Pluto is death. Can I ask what that was?
I don't.
Do you work around death?
Well, I'm a nurse, yeah. So.
Do you see a lot of death?
I guess my fair share, but as a nurse.
There's something here that involves that. There's also this is a resurrected planet. It's conjunct Saturn and the moon. There's something about your understanding and your compassion and your ability to deal with it in a more eternal sense, if I can use that word, an understanding of it. But there's definitely, when I see Pluto's conjunct Saturn, generally there's something that has embodied an experience that relates somehow to the father, Saturn, and Scorpio as well. How old is your father? 60? Okay. Are you close to him?
Yes, I am, but it's a very rough relationship.
Yeah.
But,
Can I ask you a question about him? What does he do?
He retired from the Army, and he currently works using his hands, cabling, building electrical,
Okay,
running electrical lines.
all right, okay. I'm just curious what that Saturn is doing there. Because these are good aspects. This is Libra, this is Sag. These are sextile energies. Moon to Sun is good. Moon to Neptune is good. Pluto is making perfect aspect to Neptune. Really good aspects. Saturn is squaring Mars, though. Remember we talked about that earlier?
Mm-hmm.
You've got Saturn square Mars. That means, again, what did I say the best way to deal with that?
Physical.
Exercise? Really, you should be really active in something physical.
Okay.
Otherwise, what happens? Did I tell you?
Calcification or
No. Well, okay.
stagnation.
Basically, its energy is Mars, right? Is anger.
Right.
Saturn's depression. That can come out of inactivity. You see what I mean?
Okay.
Now, your job requires a lot of effort
Yeah.
and a lot of work. So that may be dispelling a lot of that energy because you're finding a place to put all that energy.
Yeah.
But this is a square. 0 Aquarius to 1 Scorpio is exact square. Sun, Neptune, Venus. Is there anything that involves prison in your life?
My brother was in prison.
Okay, that fits. See, this planet is Neptune, rules prisons. It's the 12th house. Your sun's in the 12th. The interesting thing is that the ruler, this Sag rules the 12th cusp. You have Mercury, which rules your brothers and sisters, by the way. It's in Sagittarius here, too. I generally, when I see that, and this is also squaring off 29 Sag. That's not square. It's good aspect there. Making perfect aspect to Jupiter. Jupiter represents to me higher mind, intellect that deals with philosophy, religion, higher understanding. This is perfect aspect between Jupiter and Mercury. It's also making perfect aspect to Venus. It's a powerful chart. I mean, there's very few afflictions. The only affliction you have in this chart, quite frankly, is this Mars squaring Saturn. And because it's also conjunct Pluto, it's back to Pluto again. There's definitely something here. There's not been any major accident or something that impacted your life? Physical accident? No.
Directly?
In your family? I don't know what I'm seeing that I'm missing here because I feel like I'm missing something. Mars squaring Saturn. And by conjunction to this, it tends to bring this to square as well. Mars square. And no chronic problems with somebody's health?
Mm-mm.
Not at all.
No.
That-
Not with my parents.
Yeah.
With my grandmothers, yeah.
Well, you expect that in later years you're going to have that too. But, Then you have Uranus at 5 degrees Sagittarius conjunct Jupiter. Wow, look at this. This is, these two planets are exactly the same as hers, except hers are directly together. Yours are together too. It's a wide orb. It's 4 and 5. It's 9 degrees. A lot of people wouldn't read that as a conjunction because we use maybe 7 degrees there, but this is 9. But it's still a conjunction of Jupiter and Uranus. That gives wisdom about things that do with New Age. Anything to do with Uranus has anything to do with astrology, New Age. It's also back to the things we talked about with her. It's the brotherhood, the ability to unite others, to bring people socially together. Very powerful in this chart. Jupiter's in Scorpio. You know, there's a lot of Scorpio, though. Saturn's in Scorpio, Jupiter's in Scorpio. You know, Jupiter in Scorpio is, to me, and where's your Jupiter, by the way? I thought you have Jupiter in Libra. Yeah. And you had Mars and you have Mars and Neptune in Scorpio. Mars and Neptune in Scorpio. Mars at 16 Scorpio. Mars. I still think I'm missing something here. I'm still missing something, and I don't know what it is.
Would it be based on the time? Because it's not an exact time.
You didn't have your exact time?
No, it's
How'd you get your time?
My mom.
Just guessed it? She just
Well,
guessed?
she knew it was around 8 o'clock. She said it was a little after 8, and she wanted to say it was 8:20. So I don't have it like off my
See, that's going to change a lot.
birth certificate.
The reason it'll change so much is because, remember I told you there's only 8 minutes between the change on this cusp? All these cusps are going to change. This is 0 degrees, 9 degrees. Well, it's not 9, but this one for sure, the ascendant, that's the most critical cusp of the chart, is absolutely going to change. And I have a feeling there's something wrong with the time. The other reason I think that is Capricorn rising generally gives some, how would I say, I don't want to make this too harsh. It can bring some deformities in the birth, okay? And you haven't had that. You know, it can bring everything from dwarf, you know, stunting of growth and other things. Saturn, Capricorn is like, it limits and has a ability to cause problems that have to do with full development, okay? And Capricorn just, I don't feel it's right. Do you have a birth certificate?
I do.
Has it got time on it?
I don't know that.
Why don't we do this? Get the time from me,
Okay,
off your birth certificate,
okay.
because this doesn't, I don't know, it's 8:20, maybe it's right, but I'd like to know if it's wrong or right. Because I'm having too many struggles with this chart.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful chart. There's a lot of good that won't change. There's a lot of things that won't change. The thing that changes the most in a chart is the moon and the signs. All these signs would change radically if there's a big difference in time.
Okay.
So if you get that back to me, you can even call it or send me an email, and I'll redo it, and then I'll look at see what the differences are.
Okay.
If it's 8:20, then we'll see.